Now let's welcome our main speaker for the night, John.
Hi, I'm John, alcoholic. How you doing? It's great to be here. Vanessa, you were awesome. Thanks for sharing. I'd like to welcome the birthday people. Eric, great job, man. Love you. And our other birthday guy has gone to Chips. This thing works. You know, it really works. It's great. You know, I'm an alcoholic, and they say, you got to talk for about 45 minutes. It's like, oh, really? I mean, you know, I'm self-centered to the max, and I get to talk about myself. So, gee, I think I could do that. And I can, you know, but I'd say I love sobriety. I love this program. My sobriety date's May 27th, 1989. And, you know, my life is incredible. I mean, I've had a lot of ups and downs, mostly ups, but bottom line is sobriety is #1 thing in my life. You know, when I first came in, a guy told me right away, he said, he used to have this big thumb, and it was because he always pointed it so it was kind of half bent, and he'd always say, you know, sobriety's got to be the #1 thing in your life, and then all your affairs will recover. Now, they may not recover the way you want it, but they'll recover, and that's a guarantee. And I just always remember that, okay, sobriety first, sobriety first. And, you know, sometimes it's inbred, it's ingrained because I do work this program and I'm involved. And bottom line, it comes before everything, because if I'm not sober, I'm good to nobody anyway. So what's the point? You know? So what it was like, what happened, and what it's like now. I'm like Vanessa, I'm from back east. I grew up in Queens. And, you know, we lived in a middle-class neighborhood, which means we were poor. And you know, because that's in, you know, in Queens, yeah, we're middle class, you know. But I mean, I went on my first vacation when I was, I think, 13. And I was to Florida, you know, to my aunt's house. And that was our vacation. I mean, you know, so we didn't really have any money. And I grew up in the schoolyards. That's where we hung out. And I was, I think, 12 or 13 also when I was shooting basketball. And the guys were going, hey, we're going to buy some beer, you know. And I just moved to the neighborhood. So I said, oh, you know, all right. You know, I have like $2. Then it was, I don't know, it was Rheingold or something. And I got 3 pint cans. You know, I drank it. And of course, I got drunk, and you know, I stumbled home, and we only had a 3-room apartment, so I slept on like it was a couch bed. No, it wasn't a couch; it was a chair bed. It wasn't even a couch bed; it was a chair bed. And so everybody watched the TV. I couldn't like go to my room and hide, you know. So I was like in the living room floor, and I got up, you know, to go to the bathroom, and they said, "What's up?" And so I got punished, you know, 2 weeks grounded, and then as soon as I got out, I don't know, that next Saturday I was hitching a ride with this guy. His name was Hashi, and we were going to get Jack Daniels, you know, and some limo driver gave us a ride. I don't know, but then I got caught. I mean, and you know, and that's just, I really, you know, I don't get into the whole thing of like all the reasons why I became this. I just know that I like the effects produced by alcohol. Bottom line, I keep it simple sometimes. That's why I drank and used, because I love the effect. I wasn't thinking about, wow, you know, my father never loved me when I was 12, and my mother, she, you know, and I mean, I didn't care anything about that. When I drank, when I used, instant gratification. That's what it was for me, you know. And now I'm like, instead of 5'6", man, I'm 6'2", you know, and I'm a lot tougher. And you know, I'll ask a girl out, you know, and you know, hopefully she was as drunk as I was, but. You know, I'd say this program, man, sobriety is unbelievable. So, like I said, I started very young, and I got into drugs, and you know, I've always been a musician, and I was always playing music, and you know, I made it. See, I used my education as a way to deny that I was an alcoholic, because again, you know, alcoholics were guys, you know, were bums, you know, and you know, they were in the street. I remember my father used to drive this panel truck and down in the city, and we stopped at a red light, and some bum would run over to the truck. Hey, you got a cigarette? You know, my father give him a cigarette. You got a light? And my father go, no. And he'd laugh at him, you know. And so that's an alcoholic. You know what I mean? The guy go, oh, man, you know. And So that's what I thought an alcoholic was. So meanwhile, all my friends are going to summer school, but for some reason I was good at school. I didn't really work at it very hard, but I was good. So I was hanging out in the summers, eating turkey heroes, watching the guys play bocce ball, and I'm hanging out. This is pretty cool. My friends are stupid, because they do, and I was able to get through school without working very hard. And then I got to college, and, I wanted to be a writer, but I always liked music, and I won this music scholarship. And so I basically studied in Carnegie Hall for 3 years. Right? They wanted me, I was a sax player, but they liked the way I play flute, so I'm taking lessons, and I'm in Queens, guys don't play classical, when you're in Queens, And, I remember when I was a kid, I started to play piano, and guys, saw my piano books, and they threw them, and so, of course, I gave up the piano because of that peer pressure. And so, I wasn't really that forthcoming about what I was playing, But, but through that, I was getting loaded. But, I think it was school that was just keeping me, it was like keeping the reins in. And as soon as I graduated, bang, the floodgates opened up. And I tell you, I'm an alcoholic of the hopeless variety, and I understand what pitiable and comprehensible demoralization is. I have no secrets today, and that's a miracle for a guy like me. I've told my sponsor everything, I've told other people everything, and it's really good. And, even you can have, I had, 9 years, and I still had a secret that I was holding on to. And I finally shared it with my sponsor. And, we always say you're as sick as your secrets. And so I like to, because if he doesn't know what's going on, I'm a master manipulator. I remember one Christmas, I needed some drugs, and I was always a good guy, so my friends always sort of trusted me. But as my using got worse, you have to manipulate a little more, and you can always get over on people that love you. And so I called my one friend once and said, you won't believe this, it's Christmas, He goes, what? I said, I just spent $300 for presents, and I'm on the corner in the city, right? He goes, yeah. I said, this fucking car pulls up, and they ripped the bags out of my hand and drove away. And he goes, really? I said, that's $300 worth of gifts, So he goes, well, I can lend you $300. And I go, nah, you don't want, no, I don't. Can you really? And so he gave me that $300, yeah. And so, I had a couple more days worth of drugs and alcohol. There's many stories. Eric's telling me I have to tell some stories. But, drugs, they made me do some funny things. One time, I used to cook a little bit, and so I lived in this apartment, and it had a gas stove. So it was about, I woke up early, had my morning joint with my coffee, just getting ready for the day. And I decided, I'm going to make this steak, so I lit the pile, for the gas grill, and then all of a sudden, I don't know, something happened, I had to go out, So I go out, whatever, and I'm trying to cop and do all the things. I get back at 6 o'clock, oh man, I'm going to eat that steak. So, I had a tank top on, and so I lit the match, opened up the thing, and as I bent down, I went, uh-oh, and the gas had been building up, and a fireball shot out, and pretty much I was rolling around on the floor in fire, wishing I had electric. It was like a drag. It's like, why couldn't I have electric? And my hair, I got burns, on my neck, my arm, my nose, and that was a drag, but, my nose was all burnt, and I needed that nose. I needed that nose. The doctor said, you better go into cool weather, because the heat, I didn't have any air conditioning, and so I went right to my sister's bed. I stopped at Brooklyn first. I just got a long straw. And, nothing was going to stop me from using, and so that's what I did. And, I would go to any lengths to cop, and do, and at first, when I first got clean, I didn't really identify myself as an alcoholic, but, I drank like a fish. And I used to drink Cutty Sark, because that's what my father drank. So I'd be in the bar, Cutty Sark, and I was really, yes, let me have a Cutty Sark, none of that Seagram's, Cutty Sark. And then I drank vodka once, I think when I was 21, and I just switched, so I was always just vodka. And I drank a lot of vodka. And, I liked it, just on the rocks, twist the lemon. That was my thing. I played a lot of gigs, and, when I couldn't get drugs, I better have that vodka. And man, I loved it. You know, I didn't realize how much I loved it. I was still in denial. You know, this disease is cunning, baffling, and powerful. And denial, you know, that's the key. I mean, like, you've probably heard this before, but every other disease you have, when you get diagnosed, the doctor says, hey, you know, we're looking at your blood work here. You know, you got a thyroid problem, so you need to take this medicine and you'll be okay. You know, but, you know, I was dealing with a disease that kept telling me, you don't have it. You don't have it. My mind is going, you don't have it. You know, I mean, in the book, I never read a passage, maybe someone else has, but where it talks about I have to change my feelings. The book always talks about changing my thinking. I have to change my thinking. You know, it's all centered in the mind. The allergy of the body is cool, but if I never drink or use, it doesn't start that allergy. So why then, after, you know, having nightmares, why do I, a week later, go, I think I can have just one? You know, and then start that whole deadly progression. It's centered in the mind. I remember I actually got 5 weeks off of stuff by myself, and a thought, just a little thought came into my head that, why don't you sell those comics that you've been saving for 15 years? And, you know, because you need to pay the rent, and, you know, and I go, yeah, that's a good idea. It was just a little harmless thought. So I went there and I sold thousands of dollars worth of comic books for probably $200-300. And as I'm going home, you know, there was Brooklyn. I said, I can buy a bag. What's one bag? You know, the thinking, it was just thinking, because, and I felt great. You know, I was as strong as I had been in months. And it's like, man, you know, okay, so I get that bag. And then it started me on a 6-month run. I didn't understand it. You know, I didn't understand it. My thinking was taking me out. And they weren't, you know, and they were just nice little thoughts. You know? I mean, it really, you know, I wasn't trying to rob a bank, you know, but it was like, yeah, just sell, you know, I sold everything. You know, I mean, the speakers went, the TV went, the VCR went. You know, I sold my instruments. You know, I came out to California with a flute and a guitar, and I was a sax player. And, you know, how does that happen? I don't know. You know, I mean, but it's, you know, I mean, like I said, I would go to any lengths, you know, and lie to my family, you know, constantly. And, you know, like for me, you know, I can only hurt the people I love, because if there's someone I don't know, he's first not going to give me a chance to rip him off or lie to him. And then if he does, he's going to take action, either, you know, whatever he's going to do, it's going to be retribution, and he's never going to think about me again. You know, but my parents, you know, or my sister, or, you know, the nieces and nephews, I mean, you know, I can manipulate them. You know, my mother's the type, you know, she's the Italian mother. If they had a video of me knifing somebody, she would say, that's not him. But Mrs. Amato, this is him. We've blown it up. That's the knife in his hand. Nope, that's not my son. You know, I mean, she was in as much denial as I was. And, but I remember, you know, when I was bottoming out, I remember I had $20 left. You know, it was a Sunday night, and I was thinking, should I get, you know, some more Coke? I had scotch at the apartment. You know, should I get 20 or should I hang on to it? But I wasn't getting paid till Friday. You know, and it was this dilemma, because I was going to get sick, because I was also into heroin. And I said, should I get some methadone? This is all my decisions, you know. And this is what and it's Sunday night, and I woke up Monday, and I had the $20, and I looked at that $20 and said, the denial broke. You know, the denial, because I had lost everything. I never really made much anyway. You know, here I was, I started in Carnegie Hall, and, you know, the best I could do was play bar mitzvahs and weddings, which is not such a bad thing, but when you're a schooled musician, you know, and after a while in the neighborhood, everybody would go to my gigs, hey, Amato, solo! You know, like, all my friends would come, and, like, the rest of the band would get jealous, because I got screaming people telling me to take solos. We're going, you know, you ain't taking no solo. And, you know, now I'm playing weddings and bar mitzvahs and horrors and stuff, and you know, because I knew that I could play on the weekend, and then the rest of the week I didn't have to work. I could get loaded all week, you know, and then the weekend would come again, and then the rest of the band was getting high. We were all drinking, so then we'd all get loaded in the gig, then I get paid, and then keep the cycle going, you know. And so, you know, I never got a chance to develop or do anything. You know, this disease kept me from reaching any kind of a potential. And so, I mean, you know, that's, it's a terrible waste. It talks in the big book that a lot of alcoholics are kind of talented and smart people, and it's amazing what we can do, you know, at 50%. You know, imagine if we apply ourselves like we did to our using, you know, what we could accomplish. And it's so true, but it's so hard to get that information to a newcomer. It was so hard for me to hear that, you know, because I thought my life was over. I was on this plane coming to California. You know, when I bottomed out, that Monday, when that denial broke, and I said, I can't believe you know, that my life has ended up like this with this $20. The only thing left I had to sell was a Don Mattingly rookie card. And I went, and actually that Sunday I went to a card shop, and the, you know, the damn place wasn't open for another hour. And so then I go in there, hey, I got this Don Mattingly. It was worth about $50, and the guy said, I got 15 of them, you know. And I was outside hawking this Don Mattingly rookie card. Some guy gave me $10. And I mean, that was the last thing I had to sell. And so I'm looking at this $20, and it broke. And I actually called my mother and told her I was an alcoholic and a drug addict. And I said, I have to come home, you know. And what my sister said is that when she found out, she fell down the stairs because, you know, she was in shock. Because I was like the talented one, you know, my sister, you know, I took after more my father's side. My sister was a hair cutter, but she really, you know, she wasn't creative or anything, and you know, she couldn't believe it, and you know, thank God I've made amends to that, and you know, this program, you know, has allowed me, you know, to be an example of this program, and you know, now I'll have almost 12 years, and you know, my parents have seen me, you know, the whole change, and they're real proud. Because, you know, and they don't understand AA, but they stop asking me if I still have to go to meetings. You know, because they always used to say, well, you've been going 5 years, you still got to go. Yes, I got to go. You know, one time my mother, she was watching, I don't know, Oprah or something, she goes, Johnny, was it because of me that you used, you know? And I said, no, Ma, it wasn't because I was watching Oprah, and, you know, and did I do that to you, you know? And like, no, Ma, it wasn't you. You know, and so my father's another story, but we won't get into that. But to say that we have a relationship today, and that's you know, again, my affairs have recovered. You know, if you're new, all your affairs will recover if you make sobriety your #1 priority. You know, it's not, my relationship with my father isn't, you know, isn't like, well, I can call my father up and ask him for advice, because that's not the type of man he is. But we're close. He says he loves me all the time, you know, and he didn't do that till I was, you know, 30 years old when he started to get older. And, but we're a family. They just stayed out of my house for Christmas, and it was cool. You know, my mother's legally blind now, but it was really cool. We had a good time. But that's what sobriety, you know, it mends the fences if I work the program. You know, not that I knew I needed it, but I wanted it, you know. So I'm on this plane ride, and, you know, because it was like, my friend somehow finds me, I'm in Long Island, and I'm in Bayshore. And I get this phone call, because now I have no health insurance, where I have no money. And, you know, in '89, there wasn't like detox places all over the place, you know, especially in Long Island. There was one, it was called Apple, I think, and I had to call up for an appointment. So I called the guy, and I said, man, I need help. He says, okay, you can come in 2 weeks from Wednesday. And I said, 2 weeks? I need help now. He goes, I'm sorry. I said, look, man, I can't make it. He says, well, if you don't take the appointment, somebody else will. So I made the appointment, but I didn't show. I showed him. You know, I'm not showing. I'm going to make the appointment, but screw you, buddy. You know, I mean, so I didn't go. But anyway, so I'm deciding if I should go to my uncle's house. He lived in Woodstock. You know, that was cool. Woodstock, yeah, I'll go and cool out in Woodstock. And I get this phone call from a friend who had been kicked out of New York by the police. And literally they chased him out. You know, they said if you stay in, you know, they didn't have anything on him, but they knew he was doing the jewel robberies and all that stuff. So you will not like it. So he took the hint. And he got sober there, you know, and so in California, in Bay Area. So anyway, he found me at my mother's house. I hadn't talked to him in like a year. And he's talking to me, you know, I'm like, I'm half strung out, you know what I mean, and that really long hair. And I was a lot skinnier, you know, I was about 128 pounds. And And he starts talking, and I said, man, I don't want to go to California. They surf, they do all this stupid stuff, you know what I mean? And he's going, did you ever think that God is working through me to talk to you, to bring you out to California so you could change your life? And that's really all I remember for this day from that conversation. And believe me, I was not religious. I mean, you know, God was the last thing on my mind. I hadn't prayed in who knows how many years. But it struck a chord, you know, and I hung up the phone, and I asked my sister, I said, Lorraine, do you think I should go to California? And she goes, you should go, John. You should go, you know. And I talked to my best friend, you know, and I said, John, you know, do you think, you know, my friend wants me to go to California. He goes, John, that's a great idea. You should go, you know. So I go, Ma, you think I should go to California? Like, she bought me a ticket that day, you know. So, you know, I'm on this plane. You know, it was a last-minute ticket, and the movie was, I always remember this, it was Working Girls, right? And I'm watching this movie, and my friend said, don't drink on the plane, don't drink on the plane, don't drink on the plane. You know, so I didn't drink on the plane. I don't know why I listened to him. But, and I was sitting next to two women that had different perfumes on, and I'm sitting there, and Working Girls, you know, this is not the kind of film I was into, and I'm going, there is no hope. You know, what am I doing on this plane? I'm going to some place, I don't know anybody there. You know, I mean, I have no money. You know, I'm a musician. I mean, you don't see in the paper, saxophone player wanted all over the place. You know, with health benefits, you know, vacation, it's not there. What am I gonna do? You know, and I was, you know, if anybody's new and it's had that hopeless, you feel like you're hopeless and it's, you know, it's over, that's what I felt like on this plane ride. But I had nowhere else to go. So I get off the plane, you know, my friend picked me up in his cool new car, you know, he was this car salesman, and he emptied out my bags in front of his house. He says, I'm checking your luggage. I go, what are you talking about, man, you know? And he dumped all my stuff out, and I kicked in his house for 4 days, and they started taking me to meetings. And I was really burnt out. You know, I'm not, you know, we were talking at dinner, and, you know, guys have like 10 days, and then they come and dress nice, you know, and like they're sounding good. It's like, man, I couldn't talk for a month. I mean, you know, I was like, they just led me around. I don't remember much. I wasn't getting this love of the program, you know. I mean, it's like I had nowhere else to go. He said when I moved in with him that I had to go to meetings, and after 30 days I had to get a job. Or he'd throw me in this place was called Pathways, you know, which is like a 6-month lockdown. That's where you're going if you don't do this, you know. And so people were picking me up. I found 2 New Yorkers. Up in the Bay Area, there's really not too many New Yorkers up there. So I found 2 guys I could relate to, and they took me to meetings, you know. And that started it. And, you know, for anybody that's new, I did not believe in this program. Especially, you know, I went to one meeting in Alana Club, and they got the steps on the wall. So I start reading, you know, because I was still able to read. And it said, I saw the word God a couple of times, and I said, uh-oh, what am I getting into, you know? And then at the 12th step, having had a spiritual awakening, when I saw that, I said, oh, man, this is screwed. You know, because I went to this thing called EST in like 1977 or something, right? And it was supposed to change my life. Okay, my sax teacher, he was my mentor. He was, you know, my inspiration at that time as a kid growing up. He said, you have to do this. It will change your life. So that's immediately what I thought. So I went to EST, and it's like, at the time when you were in college, you know, they give you a discount. It was $150. If you don't have the money, they call you every day to make sure you get it. So and at that time, $150 is a lot of money. So I get the money, and I go. So you go there Saturday morning. You know, you got to be here at 8 o'clock. I was 5 after 8. They took me out in the hall. Why are you late? Why are you late? Why are you late? You know, I'm going on the train. That's not a good reason. You got to be here on time. You know, you can't go to the bathroom. You get to eat once. And then, you know, and there's all this stuff. And then the next day, you do it again Sunday. You know, you eat once. You go to the bathroom twice. And then you go back Wednesday. And the whole thing is in EST at that time was you're going to get it. Okay? And you're going to get it Sunday night at 6 o'clock. That's when you're going to get it. So everybody goes to this Wednesday roundup meeting, and everybody says, we're going to get it Sunday, man. You know, we're going to get it. I can't wait to get it. They're going, yeah, man, I'm going to get it, you know. And So that was the Wednesday. Now, the following weekend, and it's Saturday again, they starve you, you don't go to the bathroom. Okay, and then Sunday night at 6 o'clock, you're gonna get it. So it's Sunday, we're all psyched, you know. And they bring you into this thing, and they line everybody up. It's 5 minutes to 6. Everybody's going, yeah, you know. And we'll end up, and at 6 o'clock, are you ready? Yeah. You're gonna get it, okay. You're not machines, you're people, yeah? And that's it, you got it. And I go, yeah? And people are crying, they go, I got it, I got fucked for $150. That's it. People were crying next to me. What? And so when I saw having had a spiritual awakening, I knew this was bullshit. I knew this is est. You know, it's like that. But, you know, I had nowhere else to go. That's the only reason why I'm here today. That's it. So I went to the meetings, and they said, you got to get a sponsor. So I got this New Yorker to be my sponsor. And he said, we're going to, he said, I want you to read the book. So, I actually read through the book. He asked me how I liked it. I said, it was okay. I guess. He said, I think you need to read it some more. And I said, well, it's kind of boring. But we kept going. He said, all right, now when you get 30 days, we're going to start working the steps. So the first step, that was for me, that was the easiest step I had to take, because when that denial broke for me, I knew that I was an alcoholic and a drug addict. And I would not be in California if I wasn't powerless over alcohol. And my life would not be unmanageable. I would not be here. Up in the Bay Area, they have, what was that, Roundhouse Pizza. I'm from New York, we live by the pizza. And man, I was at this round table. I mean, I hated this place. Everybody up there said, right on, dude. I hated it. I would see a movie that had like a New York skyline, and I was dying. What am I doing here? And I read the first step for 2 weeks, and I realized, yes, I'm definitely powerless, and my life is unmanageable. So now we got to the second step. He said, all right, we read the step together, then we talked about the second step. Read the second step, and it says, talks about the power greater myself can restore me to sanity. Well, I didn't really dig that power stuff, but there was an out in that step for me, thank God. And it talked about you can make the AA group your higher power. So I was like, wow, cool. I can do that. I can't focus on no God or any religion, but if the group could be my higher power, I can deal with that. Because there are some people there that look pretty good, and they sounded pretty good. I didn't really believe what they were saying, but it was still, that was my out. And then the third step, turn my will to care of God that I understand, who I understand. And that step baffled me, but I just did it. See, I wasn't believing any of this stuff, because how could a book help me? In 6th grade, I had like a 12th grade reading level, and I read a lot. I was detoxing and I read, because it helped me with detoxes. And I love reading, but I could not understand how a book, because I read a lot of books, could help me. But I just kept doing it, did not believe it. No way. And plus the people up there I just couldn't relate to. There was one person, thank God for this guy, John Regan, that I could relate to. And, he was a New York Giant fan, and we were Yankee fans, so we had this little common thing. We were able to talk a little bit. And he took me to all my meetings. And then I did an inventory, and I did it the way it was suggested to do it in the book. And, the part that I had the trouble with was the sex inventory. Because for me, all my shame was based on sex, and I didn't want to share those things, and then my sponsor told me one little story that he did, because he sensed it. I'm going, I got it right there. And he said, well, look, this is what I did, for $15. And he told me, and then I said, it loosened me up. I said, okay, well, that was pretty weird, so I guess we're close, And so I was able to write down the sex inventory, because resentments, I wrote all that was, cool, I could do that, but the sex, forget it, man. That's stuff you don't talk about. I'm taking this to the grave, man. And I did a 5th step. And then I did a 6th step. And out of doing my 5th step, I was able to see some of my character defects. And did a 6 and 7. And then I did the list, the 8th step. And that's all I did because, as I was doing the steps, even the 4th step didn't scare me like the 9th step, like Vanessa was talking about. That 9th step, oh my God, I don't want to have to face. I mean, I ran out of New York, and my sponsor said, look, just do the list. Just write it down. So we did the list. And I was on the 9th step. And he said, okay, let's take the easiest one. So I owed this guy $100 for, I borrowed his PA system for these 2 gigs, and he charged me $50 each time. I wrote him a check for $100, but his fault was he didn't cash it right away, Like I was paranoid when I got clean. I couldn't even look at an ATM because I was constantly running to the ATM. Even in the winter, New York, these ATMs are broken, and God, you get to an ATM and it's busted. I'm in because I got to get that $20 out. And it was a drag when I only had like $9.75 and I couldn't get any money out of the ATM. And so he said, your check bounced, and that's what he told me back then. I said, well, why didn't you cash the check? I'm blaming him. He should have cashed it. And he says, well, I just figured I'd give you some time to get the money in the account. You should have cashed it then. So anyway, I had his phone number, and he was the first person I called. And it was probably, I'm not sure, I'm a little fuzzy about the dates, but months later, and I call him and he goes, John. And I go, yeah, he goes, well, how are you? And I said, well, actually I'm doing better now, and I just want to tell you, that I really apologize for bouncing that check on you. It was $100, and this was hard to do. It was really hard. I said, I was doing a lot of drugs and alcohol then, and I'm in California now, and I'm in a program, and I'm trying to make amends, and this is what I have to do. And he was like, there was like silence on the line, and he said, wow, man, I'm blown away. You actually thought enough to call me, and because I was waiting for him to go, yeah, you ripped me off, you mother this, and because that's what people, do in New York. They're not that nice. It's not, it's not in New York, people tell you to your face what's going on. You know what I mean? And it's like, normally that's the real, but he was like, you know what? I'm really happy for you, and I don't need the $100. And I said, no, man, my sponsor says I have to pay even if it's $5 a month. He said, no, I have plenty of money. The fact that you made this call, we're right. And I hung up the phone, and it just blew me away. Again, what people told me in Alcoholics Anonymous is true. I just made the list. I didn't look at that I owed the government 12, 15 grand, whatever it was, and I didn't look at this money, and I started with the simple ones first. And, and that's how I started the 9th step, and then I went to the 10th step. And I thought when I first read the 10th step, I would, and plus now I was like, I was struck wonderful, because now I'm sober. I'm perfect, man. I am never going to have to make an amends. As I'm never going to lie again. I'm lying now. You know what I mean? I'm never going to have to lie. I'm never going to do anything to hurt somebody. But actually the 10th step is a lot deeper than that. But initially that's what I thought. So I said, well, I'll never have to use it, but I'll read it, And so I read it. And that 10th step has so much stuff in it. It helped me in so many ways. It talked about, restraint of tongue and pen. And it taught me how not to make situations get a lot worse. Because I have that, that attitude, and I was working with a sales manager who was in New York, and we used to get into arguments, because I think he was screwing me around. Don't screw me around. And we're in the parking lot yelling at each other, and the next day it's like I'm hungover from a drunk. And I'm realizing that emotional hangover, it talks right about that in the 10th step, And I realized I couldn't react like that. It's not that I want to be right. It doesn't matter if I'm right. I can't live like that. So I learned from that 10th step how not to throw fuel on the fire and to take a few steps back. And that has helped me in so much in my life, just that paragraph. And it talked about, why should I let someone who's sick get to me, paraphrasing. And it was on the 10th step that I had my quote-unquote spiritual awakening. Not the est kind, but And I'm not putting it down because I don't know what it is today. I'm just telling you at that time what it was for me. But, you know, and what it was, I listened to these tapes, the Joe and Charlie Big Book tapes, and while I was working the steps, and it really kind of made everything click for me. And what my spiritual awakening was that I realized that what people in Alcoholics Anonymous were telling me was true. That I could stay sober one day at a time if I worked this program. You know, and that blew me away because I came here not believing this stuff. I just had nowhere else to go. And I was in bed and I could not go to sleep. Like the light bulb was on. I'm going, oh my God, this is true. I can't believe it. You know, this is real. I mean, I can do this. And, you know, and that just triggered me. I've never been the same since that night. Never been the same person. The next day I woke up and I had to read all the literature about AA and do the history, you know, the Dr. Bob and the good old timers, AA comes of age. I wanted to learn. I was really, you know, bummed out the way Bill wrote the steps. Because I was looking for some really cool thing, how he came up with these steps, you know, and it was just like, I kind of just came out. I said, what do you mean, that's it? You know, but that's the grace of God. I mean, and he just wrote them, you know, from the six steps from the other program that he went to, the Oxford groups. And it was, I just couldn't get enough of this stuff, you know. And then I got to the 11th step, and this step has changed me more in my life in sobriety because, you know, continue to improve, to make our conscious contact with God as we understand Him. And, you know, what's great is it doesn't say, you know, and after 10 years you stop. You know, and once you get to 20 years, it talks about improving my conscious contact, you know, forever. And there's no, you know, there's no top or bottom. It's just something we keep doing. And when I started to really work on that step, it just gave me a feeling that I wasn't alone. And, you know, when I moved to LA, I was kind of torn because I came here for a visit. I had a college friend live here as a musician, and I really liked, went to Venice, California, and I really liked it there. And I was comfortable, but, you know, I was like, I really wasn't happy up there. And I did a lot of praying and meditating on it, and I got the courage. I talked to people, and they said, you know, God didn't bring you this far to drop you. And I quit my job, and I moved down here. And the 12th step, you know, then I'm on the 12th step. And, you know, working with another alcoholic ensures that I'm going to stay sober more than probably anything else. If I'm not giving it away, I can't keep it. That's what they harped on up in the Bay Area. And, you know, I remember once I was really screwed up at work with some sales thing. I got screwed over, and I thought I did this thing right, and my bosses, like, reacted differently. And I go to this guy, Jim Smith. Jim, man, I'm all messed up. You know, I thought this was God's will for me. And he says, you want to know what God's will for you is? He goes, give me the book. And he goes to page 450. And he says, this is God's will for you. And basically said was, I just do what's in front of me. That's God's will. And he closed the book and walked away. And you know, I heard that. And it helped me that day. You know, and I started to try to work with alcoholics. You know, I didn't have many successes early on. You know, they were all getting loaded. But I wasn't. You know, I wasn't. You know, I was taking a meeting out to this minimum security prison, and I couldn't get it. I would go by myself, you know. And I remember once I'm setting up this meeting, and this guy comes up, and he says, oh, what is this? You know, and I said, it's you know, an AA meeting. He said, oh, man, wow, I used to have a problem with alcohol like 5 years ago. I said, really? I go, well, what are you in here for? He said, DUI. And I started laughing, and he didn't know why I was laughing. You know, he didn't get past the denial yet. You know, I mean, why did that happen to me? I don't know. You know, but I mean, again, you know, if I'm not carrying the message, I don't get to hear those things. You know, to this day, I mean, you know, I work with other alcoholics, and you know, the last 2 years have been last 2.5 years have been the most difficult years of my life because I got into a health issue, and I had a lot of pain, and you know, and I need this program, and I call my sponsor constantly, and I don't keep any secrets. and I share with my friends what's going on. I mean, I don't have to do it at group level, because I think people just want sympathies too much sometimes. It's, for me, I need to carry the message at group level. I'm not here to complain about my problems. I'm here to carry the message in any meeting I'm in, and I don't need to talk about my inner child, or, my wife isn't listening to me, or or that boss. I mean, I understand, if you're new, that's cool, but, because where else are they going to say it? But I mean, I share with my friends what's going on, and it's getting me through this. And I mean, I'm a lot better now, and I'm still having a little struggles, but not like it was. And it's because of this program. Without this program, I'm dead. Bottom line, Alcoholics Anonymous has saved my life, and I could never repay it. So what I have to do is just carry the message. That's my obligation. And it's the greatest thing. Like, I love speaking, because it's not like I do it often. I'm not a circuit speaker, or anything. But what I do, I'm filled with the love of Alcoholics Anonymous, and that's the way I get to give back. It's really, if you're new, it's a guarantee that if you work these steps, your life will change. Half measures availed us nothing. So, my sponsors say, if you just do 3/4 of this program, you ain't getting nothing. You got to work this program. And, the way I worked it was getting a sponsor, going to meetings, working the steps, and then working with others. And picking guys up to bring them to meetings. The littlest thing, I had a commitment there for 5 straight years in different meetings. I've had a commitment now for the last 3 years at a meeting. Because it's what I know, what I have to do to stay sober. I was in a relationship, and, she would get bummed sometimes because I got to do what I got to do. And once in a while I get a little jealous with some of my AA friends. But I can't help it, because this is what I do to stay sober. And we were fine with it. But in the beginning, that's just what it has to be, because I can't, there was a great pamphlet, I think it was Dr. Silkworth wrote about relapse. And he talked about it in length. I just read it. It was great. And it said, it's not that alcoholics are any different than anybody else. Because lots of people have lots of problems. So if you have a guy that has a heart attack, and now, he's not supposed to eat meat, let's say. He's not supposed to do strenuous stuff. He's not supposed to do these things. Well, he adheres to that. All of a sudden, he feels fine. Maybe 2 years later, the elevator's broken, and he decides, I could just run up those stairs. And then, he's at the banquet, and he says, well, I can just eat this food once. And what happens? Bang, he gets another heart attack. Because he wasn't staying on the program, because he felt now everything was cool. I said, and that's what happens with alcoholics. You get a little strength, you feel a little better, you go, I can miss that meeting. It's no big deal, All right, I was supposed to meet my sponsee, but I want to finish watching Survivor, So I don't show up or something like that. These are the things. I'm going into relapse. It's a lot, and bang, I equate that to like lifting weights. When I'm lifting weights, I'm doing it for a while, I get pretty strong. And then if I don't go for a week and I go and lift that weight, I'm still banging it. But then 2 weeks later, if I go, I feel as strong as I am, but all of a sudden I can't lift that weight. And that's the way sobriety is for me. Sobriety came in through the back door. Subtly it came in, and man, it goes out the same way. All of a sudden, I've seen too many guys. All of a sudden, they're drunk, and they can't get back. This power. I wrap up with this, but I was always I didn't understand about power greater than myself a lot, and what I believe today is that these 12 steps build the bridge directly into this power. And if I want to have a happy life, I have to live rightly, and my actions, the actions that I do, the results follow. I'm so used to, you give me that bottle of vodka, and if I down it, I know in 5 minutes what's going to happen. But now it's like they're going, oh, you'll get better slowly. What do you mean slowly? I don't want to wait. But if I do this work, the results follow, and it turned into good living. It's what I always wanted, and I worked these steps, and it helped me build a bridge into this power greater than myself that in the book tells me will solve my problem. Thank you very much.